want to do on this course is really challenge the idea that you are not artistic. Perhaps you are artistic and you'll get things from the course, but if you're not, don't worry about that, because I think the most important thing you could learn, if you learn nothing else than what I'm about to tell you now, that would be a great thing for your ability to enjoy making things and appreciate other people's work. And that is, there are no wrong answers. There's no way that you can make a mistake. Take this painting behind me. You can see that there's a child's drawing of a face. There's a realistic hand. There's a kind of abstract expressionist kind of movement. And this is all the same material, but just applied in different ways. So this one's painted in a photorealistic style, which is a certain skill set. This one is painted more naively, and that's another skill set. And this is another technique. And there's no right and wrong, isn't it? None of these are better than the other ones. You know, if I get a material like, say, cement, and you splat some onto the ground and you make a mud pie, or you make a beautiful Doric column out of it, one's not better than the other one, one's not more correct. And I think what you have to do is begin to, or what I want to encourage you to do, is to begin to think of paint as a material, as something that you can move around and manipulate like you would a rubber band. It's made out of pigments, which are basically rocks and earth, and some other chemicals, and you apply an oil or a medium and you apply it to the surface. And so if you learn several of these tricks and you're able to put them together, you can create your own artworks. If you paint naively, in a very naive style, or you paint super realistically, there's arguments for both of those styles. One's not better than the other. One could, perhaps the realistic stuff, although people may clap and say, wow, they would be very artistic, maybe it's dead, maybe it has no energy, maybe it's not expressing any emotion. Likewise, you might just be being very expressive and you're really kind of in your own world and it doesn't really give anybody else very much. But those are all head things. And these head things are your enemy, because that's all about you and about your vulnerabilities, and it's got very little to do with painting. So as an absolute beginner, what you have to develop is the ability to play and enjoy the process of learning these techniques. You're not a bad painter. You're going to learn how to apply paint in different ways. It may not look exactly like the way that I've done it, or it may look better than the way I've done it. That's all good. Another thing that tends to happen when you start the slippery slope into making art is you have to ask these fundamental questions, which is, what should I paint and how should I paint it? And then you say, well, what's worthwhile? What's worth me spending my time on? And you can quickly slip into deep meaning of life kind of questions, you know, like what's the point in anything, and so on. That's why art is so interesting, because you set off trying to do a craft and you end up thinking about big philosophical subjects, and that happens at all levels. But instead of embracing that as an amateur or a beginner and thinking that's part of the process, you think it's exclusive to you. You think you're the only one that's having those terrible thoughts. I can tell you, I know a lot of very successful artists. I don't know one that doesn't go in to the studio and have self-doubt. So the attitude I want you to bring to this course is, I'm here to play, I'm here to learn, I'm here to have fun, and I cannot get it wrong. And I'm going to now tell you a few materials that I think would be useful for you to work with. You don't have to work on canvas, you can work on cardboard. Some of the greatest artworks in the world are on materials that are rotting, much to the collector's worry. And then I'm going to give you an exercise that's designed to get you into this space of just pushing and pulling and scraping and turning and learning what this material can do. It's got to use one colour, only one colour, and we've got to mix that colour from two other colours. So the minimal amount of materials we need for this exercise are just two colours, which are burnt umber and French ultramarine.
which we'll use to make a dark black. And some kind of medium. I've got Zest It here, which is much less dangerous than turpentine. Something to mix it with. I'm using an old paint scraper and an old rag. That's it. That's all you need. I'm using alkyd rather than oil, but you can use oil or alkyd. Alkyd dries a little faster. That's the way I like to roll. Okay. If you can't get hold of any oil base, then just use acrylic and mix it with water. You can still do the same exercise tonight with that. So I've poured a little of the medium here out onto my piece of glass or plate, and I've just poured out some French ultramarine and the burnt umber. And I'm going to take about 70% French ultra and 30% burnt umber. And I'm going to just mix that until I get a black. It's a very blue black. It needs a little bit more. Oh, it's not too bad actually. A little bit more burnt umber, I think. Now the reason that I've not just used black out of the tube for this exercise is I want you to get used to the idea that a colour can be pushed or tweaked. If I put more of this burnt umber in, I get a more warm black. I have more of the brown in it. And if I put more of the ultramarine in, I'm going to end up with a bluer black. And that means we've got a little bit of a range. And this is important later on when we begin to do some subtle colour mixing and things. We'll be able to use that. But that doesn't really matter now, because what we're about to do is so simple. We're just going to get this rag here. We're going to dip it into that medium. And we're going to pick up some of that black. We're going to go over to our canvas or piece of cardboard or whatever you're using. And we're just simply got to rub it all over the canvas. Let those colours come through. Don't worry about anything. Like I said at the start, you can't get it wrong. So now you can see we've covered our surface with this messy colour, and it's great because you, instead of being all precious, you've set off with something that is really rough. So now I've took a clean rag and I've just put a little medium on it, and I'm just going to go over and I'm just going to push it and rub into the surface like that. Just make a white area. Rub it here like that. Make another white area. Let's put one up there. Let's put one here. And one down there. So step back. That's it. Nothing special about that. And now I've just got the end of the spoon and I've took a darker amount of the burnt umber and ultramarine, and I'm just going to pick out the things that have just happened by accident. Like this looks a little bit dark here, so I'm just going to put a little bit on there. I'm going to put a little bit on here. That's just with a spoon. If you've got gloves on, you can use your fingers. Just wash your hands. Some of these paints can be very dangerous, so check before if you do. I wouldn't advise using your fingers, but I'm just having a little go there. Use the paint scraper. Just experiment with different types of marks. See what happens when you scrape them over. I don't want you to try to make a painting. I want you to sort of fall in love with applying the paint. Do whatever you want. There's no wrong answers. Actually, I quite like that. So you've got some nice moments going in there. So I just want you to experiment, play with the materials, try all sorts of things out. Our friend Richter is very fond of this. It's just once you've done something, just pull it again. Pull it down, and you get another surface. Get an interesting effect. Just learn to do this, and I want you to rub. I actually want you to rub the things out. I don't want you to be precious about it. Just experiment with what it can do. Think of it as a material. Don't get hung up on whether you're making a picture, whether you're skilled or anything. It will pay a dividend, I promise.